Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare.
All right. Well, we had a really wonderful session on Sunday. It was nice and a big full house. Unpack this rare and precious life. We be doing those every month now. So we'll get those in. Next one on the 21st of January. So today we are back to the meditation session. Last week we covered in the text the different types of meditation, different types between sort of the analytical and the concentration, and different ways of even looking at those and how we utilize them in our lives. Now, one helps us gain insight, direct realization, and one helps us cultivate certain states of mind. And the two together, compassion, wisdom, become this path of awakening. And now there's some advice on how to structure the practice. And so typically within a Tibetan perspective, there's these preparatory practices for a meditation session. So some of you have been doing the meditation online. You'll see the similarities here. And here they just unpack a bit about that. So I'll go ahead and get right to that. So these directions are applicable regardless of the type of meditation that you'll be involved in. This is specific here to the Lam Rim. And just a reminder, everything that we've been going through to this point has been to prepare us to engage in the Lam Rim. So Lam Rim translates to these stages of the path to enlightenment. And so everything's been prepared. We did the first text where we were just really looking at Western view, Buddhist view, and some of the translation and how we avoid some confusions, how we can engage as Westerners with the practice. This text has been the foundation of Buddhist practice, Buddhist view, and so forth. And they're getting into now how we would actually meditate, which is the third wisdom, and how we engage in really incorporating these teachings within ourselves. So hearing the teaching, analyzing or contemplating the teachings, reflecting upon them, and then meditation. So in that context, they're preparing to take up a topic like the rare and precious life or karma or something like that, that is one of the topics, and how one would meditate on that topic. What we do in the morning is we do always focus on this rare and precious life and work in some interdependence and so forth. And then the main practice is really shamatha practice, which is the concentration, but the same structure takes place. So that's the context. And let's take a look at what His Holiness has to say. Having a consistent and continuous meditation practice produces stable changes in our mind. Those are really, sort of consistent, continuous, and stable. Not erratic, up and down, and fleeting. I would like to outline how to do a regular daily meditation practice based on Lam Rim stages of the path, in the hopes that you will implement this in your own and other, implement this for your own and others' benefit. With a strong foundation gained through meditation on the Lam Rim, your natural perspective on life will be the Buddhist worldview, and your character will be shaped by the aspirations for liberation, bodhicitta, and wisdom. So essentially, this is really how this becomes a part of who we are. And we're moving it from intellectual discussions, readings to, oh yeah, that's how I show up. Now, some people prefer to read a Dharma book, review notes taken during an oral teaching, listen to recordings, or watch videos of Dharma talks before meditating so they can meditate on the meaning of what they've just studied. So kind of read it, reflect on it, and then meditate. Other people prefer to meditate first and study later. Such time for study, reflection, and meditation is important for your emotional, physical, and spiritual health. Make a place for this quiet time in your life and let it become a habit. You'll experience the benefits. So now they're going to break down just the most conducive way to set this up. And then, of course, we need to make adjustments as we can. The best time for meditation is in the early morning as the mind is clearer and sharper, and then not yet distracted by the day's activities. Familiarizing yourself with wholesome thoughts and emotions in the morning influences how you will live the rest of your day, especially if you generate bodhicitta, this great compassion, which opens your heart to all sentient beings. And remember that people and things are transient and lack independent nature. So those are just two references to wisdom and compassion, right? The bodhicitta is the compassion. Remembering things are transient, they lack independent nature. Now we're into wisdom, which reduces your grasping. So you'll hear these themes constantly: wisdom, compassion, the two accumulations of Buddhahood. If your schedule doesn't permit you to meditate in the morning, meditate at another time in the day when you can relax and will not be interrupted. So there are some people actually find, the evening good for them, and that can work. I used to lead a meditation at the Dharma Center from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. in Long Beach, our center, and it was a nice transition for people coming home from work. You had all that for the day. You're not quite home. So we did like these two 25-minute sessions. So you could join the first one or the second one, just drop in, or some people sat for both. It was a nice shift from work busy mind to, okay, going home. So that I found to be a nice time. Although meditating for an hour is good, if that is not possible, do whatever is comfortable for you. Conclude before you feel tired so that you'll have a positive feeling about meditation. Pushing yourself to meditate for longer than you're comfortable. Let me say that again. Pushing yourself to meditate for longer than you are comfortably able. Okay, I'm going to get it right this time. Simple water. Focus. Been living without my glasses. I had the cataract surgery, so sometimes these don't dial right in. Pushing yourself to meditate for longer than you are comfortably able to will make your mind resistant to future practice. So here's the point. A lot of people, how long do you meditate? It's funny, I get asked that question sometimes when I work with groups. Well, how long do you meditate? I'll say, well, that's really not the right question. It's, what's the quality of your meditation? And, what's a good amount of time for you? So he's making that point here that doing longer is not necessarily better. Pushing yourself too much, going to have you resist meditation. And making a point here, 10 minutes of good quality meditation is better than sitting for an hour with a distracted or sleepy mind. So people can get in some bad habits there. I was taught originally with the 60-minute type practice. And, people, you can nod, you can get some pretty bad habits. It can be painful at times. And, then you have to buck up. And so this approach is very different, where you stop and you're comfortable and you check in. You go, do I feel better that I've done that? Then there's a little reward. And, there's a sense of feeling good about it instead of this oppressive, I need to do this. And then we beat ourselves up for not doing it. And then we have to go do it. We got this burden over us. So I didn't do my meditation. And instead of, well, why don't we just do 10 minutes? Because you feel good about what you're doing. You want to come back. You don't want it to be a burden. So 10 minutes of good quality meditation is better than sitting for an hour with a distracted or sleepy mind. You can also get into really bad habits with that. However, a person who is very busy and has little fortitude will find meditation almost impossible. They should just do a short prayer and then finish. That's best. So you see how, the idea is meeting yourself where you are instead of uh, forcing, forcing. And then it's this uh, big push. So there's a line between too little and too much. So maybe a nice little prayer, some good thoughts, and maybe 5 minutes, something, get in a posture, work up to it. And but I think most of us are probably knocking out a little more than 5 minutes. We just did 15. So but the idea here is quality versus quantity and a really good relationship with the practice. So you feel good about it and you develop good habits. And it's something that you look forward to. You see progress. It feels good. You get up early. We may have to sacrifice late night activities in order to go to bed earlier. Have to put the cell phone down. Turn off some of those other activities. Um, Now, this may be easier for me to do because I live in a monastic environment in Dharamsala, an Indian town that's fairly quiet in the evening. In other places, there's entertainment and social life, so sticking to a regular schedule of daily meditation might be more challenging. Just as daily meals and exercise are necessary to keep our body healthy, daily spiritual practice is essential for our mental well-being and progress towards awakening. And, that's a good relationship because we can be really thoughtful about our meals, about our exercise, how we take care of our body, and not at all about what I'm putting into my mind. What am I watching? What am I doing? What are the things going on? And so a real healthy diet of virtuous thoughts, wholesome activities, this is significant in terms of just healthy well-being. And it's amazing how pretty easily humans can watch pretty wild, violent, crazy stuff. And then you want this nice, peaceful mind. And you go, well, what are you putting in your mind? What are you putting in your mind? And so really being thoughtful about what we attend to, how we attend to it, having a healthy diet, healthy mental, emotional diet, really going to be critical. It's what we're putting in our mind, not just the exercise. Meditation sessions consist of 3 parts: the preparation, the actual practice, and the conclusion. And it also very much relates to karma, the intention, the actual event, and how you feel about it after. That's how karma is weighted. See this. The preparation involves taking refuge in the Buddhas, Dharma, and Sangha, generating bodhicitta, generating a bodhicitta motivation to attain full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings, and purifying and creating merit. The actual practice is meditating on the Lamrim topic for that session or the shamatha practice of that session. At the conclusion, dedicate the merit created to attain Buddhahood and lead all sentient beings to awakening as well. So you'll notice the same thing happens here, right? We bring the Buddha to mind. We take refuge. We establish our bodhicitta motivation. What we don't do is purify negativities. And in the long morning practice, that does actually take place. But those would be the components. Try to avoid developing bad habits in your meditation. So that can happen with these really long practices. We can develop some pretty bad habits. Or we can just have bad habits with the short one. We can be, cranking up some music or different types of things and meditate in a recliner. I'll kick back. Yeah, so there's some other things that can kind of limit our ability to really do this. So try to avoid developing bad habits in your meditation. As in other activities, correcting a bad habit in your meditation practice is more difficult than establishing a new habit. So shorter, good habits, and then build upon it rather than, longer or intermittent and bad habits. Pay attention to the meditation instructions and do your best to follow them. If necessary, you can adjust them slightly to suit your personal needs and situation. And so lots of good adjustments can be made, especially, physically and so forth. Made a point here, do your best to follow the instructions. So that's something we emphasize a lot. We do not judge our practice, our meditation session by how focused I was or what realization I got or, how wonderful I feel. Did I follow directions? Then you nailed it. And so that's really key here. And he's hammering that point. So our directions are, well, he's going to give directions. I'm not going to elaborate. I'm going to maybe trim down. We'll see. So within the Tibetan structure, we have these 6 preparatory practices really to prepare and to sit well. And these are really just conducive invitations that they have found over the years have a significant impact on our meditation practice. So in describing how to structure a meditation session, Lamrim texts begin with the 6 preparatory practices that are done before the actual practice. These are cleaning the room and arranging the altar, making offerings, sitting in the correct meditation posture, taking refuge, generating bodhicitta, contemplating the 7 limbs, and requesting inspiration from our root and lineage spiritual mentors. So these are the foundational practice before one meditates. And I'm going to kind of bring up here our little practice guide for the morning practice that we do. So in case you did, you saw this, we did our prayer, but this is actually part of our daily practice handout. So you can download this off the website in just the sheet form, or you can even do it in a little booklet form, staple it, have a little booklet. And we're going to outline, they'll give some advice, but just so you'll notice, here's a little reflection that we do on the rare and precious life. We could set a nice morning motivation, from His Holiness the Dalai Lama about this life and this day that awaits us, a good aspiration for the day. And then here it says, visualize the Buddha, refuge in front of you. Then we take refuge, cultivate bodhicitta. Here we add the 4 immeasurable attitudes. This is the longer practice. Really wholesome, virtuous heart and mind practice of equanimity, loving kindness, compassion, and empathetic joy. Then this way talked about the 7 limb, reflection on 7 limbs. These are practices that cultivate merit and purify negativities. So the 3rd limb here is an actual purification practice. So we can do that. Offering of the manla, sort of that request gets made. And then the meditation session. And then kind of an intention here for the day that we add to be engaged in virtuous actions, avoid the non-virtuous actions, be mindful throughout your day. And then the dedication. So all that's there in our morning practice. It's the long version. And, I explain it and guide it if you're doing it. And then we have a shorter one. So let's say you don't have 50 minutes. We got a trimmed down version. And so a little different shift, but you always again start with refuge. We have our 4 thoughts that turn the mind to Dharma, preparatory meditation session, dedication. So the 4 thoughts really set that motivation clarity for the day. And then an evening practice, we recommend Vajrasattva purification. All right, so that is available to everyone. You can just download that. And like I say, if I do a recorded version of both every day except Sundays. Before we unpack any of that, just want to see if anyone has any questions, thoughts, comments, so I can stop talking for a moment or two. Okay. And no, this may strike some people as quite an elaborate thing. I just want to sit down and meditate for 10 minutes. I'm going to spend 15 minutes getting ready to meditate for 10. So do you have to do this? Of course not. If you have just a little time to sit down and do practice, you can do practice. The approach here is the ripening of the mind. So if one were to clean the room, set up a nice little altar, have that all nice, and then make some little offerings. For example, we have these 8 or 6, 7 water bowls up here, 7 water bowls. We have some flowers. Some people like have little water bowls on my altar and do a little blessing as you pour the water, and this is all offered. I have my teacher's images there. By the time then you go to sit, your mind's in a very different place. I've invited the best company, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. I've prepared the room. I've made these offerings. Doing that, by the time you sit, your mind's already in this very different place than if you just sit down. Can you sit down and do it? Sure. If we have this, then your mind's, okay, kind of more ripened. And then when we sit, and now we've got the Buddhas, we've got the altar, we invite them to be present, and we sit with them for a little bit, and we establish, and our motivation, we take refuge. And as we settle in, your mind's in just a very different place than if I just sat down. So it's just helpful. And but some people can get very tied up in ritual, and some of the long rooms can be pretty scary about how you do the water bowls. They're very descriptive. Fill right up to the top. They're poured in a particular way. They're offered, as a matter of fact, from left to right. You never put an empty water bowl on the altar, up, right side up. You've done this blessing with the water, the consecrated Om, 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 and you pour with 2 hands. And if you do it correctly with 2 hands, the stream should start thin, get wider because you pour faster, and then you taper it down, touches, fills just evenly. And then the next bowl, same thing. Then you put it one rice grain width apart, and then you even it out. And the next one, you go from left to right, just so. And then some of the teaching, if it isn't just so, this happens to your mind and so forth. So people get kind of squirrely about this. Buddhists really don't care how you do it. Gonna say, just they're gonna love you no matter what you do, right? They're just gonna love you. There's no lightning bolt striking you didn't do it right or any of that. So there's lots of ritual in Tibetan Buddhism, and it's skillful means is what it is. Like when you do that and you do it, what are you doing? You're doing a mindfulness practice. I'm pouring the water, I'm filling this up evenly, we're setting them just so, and so you're really mindful and you bring in this gift to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And do you need 7 bowls, or what if you only have one? Well, yeah, do one. You don't want to put some flowers in, put some flowers in, you know. Uh, there's this prescriptive way that gets broken down here, but it's really about our minds. What are we offering? And let's offer it nicely. And then you take it down a particular way. You go from right to left. And then, again, you clean them and have them set back up, upside down. And, what I've noticed in my life is the days that I don't do it and the days that I do it, there's a significant difference. I mean, I know the Buddha's going to love me no matter what. It's not like a karmic thing. I didn't do my water bowls today. Matter of fact, the Buddha did not have water bowls, didn't carry them around. Its monks didn't carry them around. It's a Tibetan cultural thing. It was water's accessible, water's available to make these nice offerings. And there's these, they even have these thoughts about 10 qualities of water, that you can be thinking about as you offer them, why it's such a nice offering. You can just, have just good intentions. But again, it's not the ritual itself. It's what it's doing to our mind. So if my mind gets disturbed, I didn't do it right, or my water bowl's touched, or well, that one's uneven, or oh my, it's not helpful. So, but you might have a little space with picture of Dalai Lama or teachers, something that's nice. They give very specific even directions in Lama Rim, how to set up an altar, and body, speech, and mind, the Buddha appears. So the body is the text. So that's I'm backwards, but to your left, text, image of the Buddha, center, okay, and mind of the Buddha, usually a little stupa. So we have body, speech, and mind, and they're arranged in that order, and then we have the offerings in front, so forth. So we have a Buddhist text, the image, and the stupa, the mind. And so, these are really nice detailed practices. Can you put a card with the Buddha on there? Yeah, a little offering, fine. It can be as elaborate as you want, as simple as you want. The point is, what's it doing to our minds? And a nice place that's clean, clear, sweet to practice in. Just don't put the book on the right or you'll get struck down. Then I forgot that side note. Uh, yeah. No, it's interesting because, I'm saying this because, you can get very stigmatized around this. So every time we see an image of the Buddha, these tankas, we have these beautiful tankas, we see the Buddha's here, right? The Buddha's present. And when you ripen your mind, like it's wow, the Buddha's right here. It's nice. And so we're really careful with images. We don't, just lay them around or thoughtful about them. And I once took a group of monks, we went to a Buddhist center in a different lineage, a non-Tibetan lineage, and they got their Dharma center and they just spread all of their prayer books on the ground, and like we're having a heart attack. Like, you don't put Dharma texts on the ground, man. Like, you wrap them nicely. You'll notice we have these little tables you can put those on. And they're just spreading them all out. And then if that's not enough, you go into the bathroom, they got a big old Buddha tank in the bathroom, and man, looks like, oh my God, put the Buddha in the shit house. It's like, what are you guys doing? And so you can have all these things, but again, the Buddhists don't care about any of that. And but at my house, I'm very careful about how I tend to those things. You'll notice texts get wrapped up and they're set nicely. Well, because then my mind is, this is the path to awakening. This is different than my romance novel, which is over here. This is the path to awakening. This is the Dharma. And we wrap it nicely. We put it on a desk and stuff. But you can have, like at a Dharma center, but Tibetan one, like someone puts that text on the ground and just somebody just loses it, like, rush over and pick it up, save the Dharma. Oh my God. Save it here. Let's put it on this table. Let's get you set up, and don't ever do that. This new person has no idea what's getting, probably not the best way to do that. Okay. When I get a chance, maybe I'll visit with the person, kind of share our custom and how we attend to it. You don't ever put your feet towards the altar, right? So, and then, you have new people come in, they're stretching out, doing their stretches, showing their soles of their feet, and good, culturally, you just wouldn't do that. And so there's lots of these little, things that are mindful practices that ripen you. And so, for example, in like a room that I may sleep in, our meditation room, which has some tankas, there will never be a tanka where my feet go that way. Like they'll be on my left and my right and the head, but not the other way. And I'll tell you, to this day, pretty squirrely, if somebody's throwing a tanka or an image like towards my feet, I'm like, because I don't like that personally, and it's my training. And so, but it also makes me mindful that I really want this good company. I want them to be well, and I want to be appreciative of the culture and the customs. And so, these things are good to know, because I think people can get very caught up in the ritual of the teachings, and then there's some text around, you know, uh, negative things that can happen if you don't do it just so. Do you feel okay about how you put the water bowls up? We're okay. All right. Yeah, a little closer next time. Yeah. But yeah, just even, nice. Yeah. Uh, but again, everything that is taught here is taught as a skillful method, right? And so for some of us, we may have different relationships with altars and how we do things. And, it's really about ripening the mind, making a connection with our teachers and the community and hearts and our minds. And so it's making something really, this is special, special. And then if we do these things, our mind is in a very different spot. It's ripens everything really sweetly. But if we get more caught up in the ritual and all that, then we can actually, really undermine the very point of it all. All right, I think that's all I want to say on that. Any questions around that?
John, I have a question.
Okay, I was hoping you'd have an answer, but we'll go with the question.
When you said about bad habits in meditating, can you enumerate some of those bad habits? Because you gave a fairly dire tone to bad habits. I'd like to know what to avoid in particular.
Yeah, so bad habits in meditation, well, they pointed out pretty quickly. If we, get really sleepy a lot and, just have this real lackadaisical mind, that's going to be a pretty bad habit. Bad habits in meditation, for example, here's one that I'll just meditate for as long as I feel, it's good, then I'll know when to stop. So rather than saying, uh, I'm meditating for, let's just start, we did 15 minutes earlier. I'm going to meditate for 15. I'm going to set that. And I'm going to meditate for 15 instead of some people, well, I'll meditate until, now know it's time to stop. Or then your mind's training you and you're not training your mind. I said do 15 minutes, so I'm going to do 15 minutes. I do 24 minutes, I'm going to do 24 minutes. Posture's very important, I think. And, an alert, nice posture. Now, in this text, they're going to offer the 7-point posture, which probably none of us can do. So don't worry about that. That's the whole sort of full yogi, full lotus posture. You can sit in a chair with a nice straight back, good, nice straight shoulders. You're going to have everything flow nicely. But you also might say, well, I have some physical conditions sitting up in a chair. That's not very good. Laying on the floor, nice posture, comfortable, formal, supine position. So again, posture is going to be one of those really good habits. Now you might be in someone who does need a recliner just because of your physical thing. So everything's adapting, right, to where you are. Another bad habit is just, engaging in the constant flow of the thoughts that we're going with without then falling in directions. We can just daydream or fall into relaxation instead of sticking to the actual guidance of the practice. Really gauging between laxity and excitation, coming back, monitoring that. Being critical and judgmental of our practice, that's a really, really bad habit as well. What else is coming to mind? I mean, those are some of the real common ones. Really, I think setting an intention around the value of this practice is a good habit. This is something that is important, and I know why I'm doing it. Too often we can just sit down and just, go through the motions. That's what's coming to mind for the moment.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's always adjustments. If you can have the tongue touch the roof of the mouth, nice. You go through the nostrils, nice. My nostrils have been clogged up, so I'm going to have surgery on Friday. So for several weeks, I'm breathing through my mouth, make those adjustments. And I guess, yeah, another habit is that's not good is, if we sporadic practice. The more that we can structure this and have a steady, consistent practice, just trying, even at least to get it in once a day, even if we didn't do a formal practice, it's 5 o'clock at night, oh, go sit for 5 minutes. Just do 5 minutes. And rather than just, I'm not doing it this way, so I'm not doing it. Because then again, we're letting the habits or rituals get in our way instead of just, freeing up the mind a little bit. I'm going to sit for 5 minutes. Another bad habit. The more I sit here, really over striving. So my meditation should be like this, and I focus on that, and it's tight. The mind gets tight. I'm willing my attention just on the breath, and it's pushing too hard. And that's a really bad habit. Free the mind, relax, release, rest the awareness, monitor when it gets lost, bring it back. So that real adjustment period. A lot of people strive to have a specific experience. When I'm doing it right, I feel like this. And, that's going to be a huge problem. Just follow the directions. Sometimes you'll feel like this. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. That was an Almond Joy commercial. Man. What's the one if you don't feel like a nut? Mounds and Almond Joy. Nailed it. Okay. So, yeah, those are some of the things that come up. Yeah, I'll leave it at that, probably. Anybody else have any idea about a bad habit?
Hey, John, this is Kurt. I have a question about just clarification on the striving part of it.
Okay.
Because I understand the rigidness, but it's kind of a fine line there, because if I don't strive at all, then I sit and think about cookies the whole time. And if I had to strive a little bit, right? I mean, I don't know, at least it seems to me that I need to.
How about we use the word have to apply some good effort? Ooh, just change the word there. By the way, what kind of cookies will we be meditating on?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can see her came out. Cookies? What? Yeah. So yeah, again, taking it too lightly is a bad habit, right? This is important. Following the direction is monitoring, and monitoring is noticing the cookies and letting go of the cookies coming back, and introspection. This we need this guide to have that monitor, and so that's going to be critical to note, and so that requires effort. When I'm talking about striving, it's more for a particular outcome. So I'm using it in that context. But you could say I'm striving to do this properly. That's the good striving, right? Rather than I'm striving to have this specific kind of an outcome or to make a certain amount of progress in a certain amount of time. That kind of striving would be harmful. But having clear effort and a real determination to do the best that you can would be very helpful and really required. You see a distinction there?
Yeah. Could I ask a real quick follow-up too? We got a small house, and the place where we have our altar it's kind of in the middle of the room, off to a side, and
Oh my God, that's never.
I know I'm looking for lightning bolts, but I like the place that it makes sense for me to meditate is kind of not facing the altar. Am I going to get struck by lightning?
Yes. So yeah, no, again, there's never, we're engaged in wholesome activities we don't have to worry about, There's no punishment here in Buddhism. It doesn't work like that, so that's okay. What's most conducive for you is nice. So they're saying that, for example, when I sit in front of the Dalai Lama's photo on my album, on my altar, wow, it just ripens my mind. I just feel like he's right here. And so it's helpful. And so if there's no other place for the altar and you sit, and you can bring it to mind, that's fine. This again is a suggestion around what can really infuse your practice. Yeah. And so I'm going to invite people to read, and go through their advice. And if you have any questions next week, we can unpack that a bit. But like I said, on our website, you can download sort of the guide to practice. But he also will make points like, yeah, it's nice to have your own room for meditation practice. Your small house probably don't have that. Your altar goes in a different place. It's nice to have a clean, really, nice room. But, obviously, if there's some things, it's always about the adjustments. And and working with what you have. My emphasis that I'm trying to point out today is that this is optimal with a skillful method for a Tibetan culture. We need to make it optimal for you and how it fits in your life. And know that whatever you're doing with the motivation of sitting to cultivate a heart and mind that's conducive to practice is going to be okay. And so do it the way you want. Some people, how they relate to their environment is going to be a little bit different. And let's not get too rigid about it, but not too lax. Yeah. On those, for example, water bowl offerings. Didn't take them down last night, didn't wipe them down, didn't go from right to left, Lazy, what? Or, next morning, you can just put a little extra water in, with some good things, ripen it up again. Again, this is not, as I mentioned, I think it was on Sunday, Tenzin Priyadarshi, when someone was coming to him with, not feeling good about their practice and what they're doing and all the commitments they've made. He just said, after he laughed for a moment, he said, there's enough in this world to stress and worry about. The Dharma should not be one of those things, right? It just shouldn't be. And so really want to know what the purpose is. And if this type of setup is helpful, then do it. If another type of setup is helpful, do that. We want to, all of this are methods and skillful means to help ripen the mind and build that relationship with the Dharma, with the Buddhists, with your refuge, and to ripen the mind in a particular way. They even say if you have an altar and you can face it to the east, that's great. I don't think ours face the east, right? Let's see.
This one?
Yeah, this one does. Right. So one at home does, but this one doesn't. But the room configured this way, it's gonna be fine. So there's these things, but the most important thing is the mind that we're bringing to it, because it's all about that in our motivation, it's ripening. And so they go into some detailed directions, and again, there'll be very specific directions on meditation posture. Again, maybe one of you could sit like that. I cannot sit. I mean, I can do Burmese style like that, actually, but I can't do the full lotus. But a chair is fine. Chair's fine. And supine's fine. So we just accommodate what's good for us. We do want a straight back, and if possible, tongue touching the roof of the mouth. Those are very, very important. All right. Well, I think I want to leave it there. And then I'm going to invite you to read the next part of the text where, they'll set that up. And then if you'd like, you can download the direction, the guide. And again, there's a recording with those. And then if you have questions next week, you write them down, and then we'll unpack, because, they go into detail about these limbs, and we can spend quite a few sessions on all that. So I think it'd be better to have you go through that and write down any questions, so we can talk about it. Sound okay? Anybody learn anything tonight? Okay, I see one head nod. Awesome. That's all it takes is just one, and the ripples go down. All right, let's go ahead and dedicate the merit that we've already cultivated. This is that third piece that they're talking about. And it's nice to just take a moment to recognize the wisdom and merit that has been cultivated here. We've got to engage in these precious teachings passed down through the centuries, ripened for us in this rare and precious life. We've taken the time and energy to support each other, to engage in these teachings with the motivation to be a benefit to all, and to engage in this path of the Bodhisattva for the benefit of all beings. So let us make this dedication of our time and energy of the merit and wisdom, both today and throughout our lifetimes, for the benefit of all and for our own continued spiritual growth. Let us begin. By this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Om Tare Tu Tare.